Remember when everyone had written Verstappen off in this championship? Well, just 2 months later, the Dutchman has erased a 104-point deficit and is now one step away from something historic, his 5th consecutive world title. Before we go on, I want your opinion. Do you think Max can pull off the most impressive comeback in the last 20 years? Because what Red Bull is doing, and how they're doing it, is completely changing the narrative of the 2025 season. What's really behind this technical rebirth that has brought Verstappen back into the fight for the World Championship? Stay tuned until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In this analysis, we'll break down how Red Bull, after months of doubt and internal turmoil, managed to reverse the technical course of the RB21 and return Verstappen to the forefront of Formula One. It's not just about talent behind the wheel, it's a case of engineering, strategy, and technical leadership at its finest. After the Dutch Grand Prix, the championship seemed decided. Max Verstappen was more than 100 points behind leader Oscar Piastri. Red Bull had lost its technical direction, and the media were beginning to talk about the end of an era. The RB21 showed clear signs of imbalance, problems within its operating window, loss of grip in slow corners, and unpredictable braking behavior. Everything indicated that Milton Keynes' dominance was over. However, what seemed like a structural collapse became a turning point. Red Bull reacted with cool composure. They analyzed their data, reviewed simulations, and faced an uncomfortable truth. The car's development had been on the wrong track since spring. That's when Laurent Mekies entered the scene. His appointment as deputy technical director wasn't just an administrative change. Mekies reorganized the analysis process, redefined priorities, and restored a precision mindset that Red Bull had lost. From that moment on, the team began to work with a different logic. Less internal politics, more engineering. Less reaction, more method. And the first tangible result appeared at Monza, when the RB21 showed balance in high-speed corners and consistent race pace. That performance wasn't a fluke. It was the first sign of a quiet rebirth. Mekies summed it up in a phrase that set the tone for the new Red Bull. We went back to measuring before cutting. Morale in Milton Keynes changed immediately. The engineers regained confidence in the simulation tools, and Verstappen once again felt that the car responded to his driving style. Each practice session was transformed into a controlled laboratory to understand the true limit of the RB21. The turning point came in Austin. Red Bull needed more than just a good race, they needed a demonstration of absolute control. And they got it. Verstappen led from the start of the sprint to the checkered flag on Sunday. It wasn't a victory based on pure speed, it was a victory based on method. Every setup decision, every aerodynamic adjustment, and every strategy change had been calculated with surgical precision. For the first time in months, the car responded to the driver's commands without resistance. The RB21 began to behave like a championship-winning car, not by chance, but because behind it lay a completely reorganized engineering team. Laurent Mekies became the silent force behind this transformation. His arrival imposed a new working model based on data and consistency. Red Bull abandoned the philosophy of blind experimentation during practice sessions and adopted a systematic approach to technical validation. The most revolutionary aspect was the use of dynamic simulations compared with real-time telemetry, which allowed them to detect discrepancies between the wind tunnel and the track. This synchronization restored Verstappen's confidence, and for the first time all season, he declared he felt connected with the car. The result was immediate: less tire degradation, greater consistency, and a precise understanding of the balance between grip and top speed. The psychological impact was as significant as the technical one. A new calm permeated the Red Bull garage. The engineers worked with rhythm and purpose. Verstappen regained his usual body language, total concentration, without frustration. Rivals began to notice the change, not only in lap times but also in attitude. Red Bull had gone from surviving to dominating. Mekies explained it without drama, but with clarity. Austin was the first weekend where all the lab work translated into results on the track. That sentence marked the true beginning of the team's technical rebirth. When most teams eased off the gas and started looking ahead to 2026, Red Bull took the opposite approach. Instead of shelving the development of the RB21, they decided to keep pushing until the end of the championship. It was a decision many interpreted as madness. For them, It wasn't just about winning races. It was about understanding every millimeter of their car. Makis and Helmut Marko agreed on a simple yet powerful idea. If they didn't fully understand the current car, they couldn't build the next one solidly. That approach made all the difference. Each upgrade was a small technical experiment, designed to solve a specific problem rather than seek an overall gain. In Singapore, they tested a front wing with increased camber that improved braking stability. In Mexico, a new recycled floor and a redesigned engine cover increased thermal efficiency. None of these parts were revolutionary on their own, but together they created an upward performance curve that few expected at that stage of the season. Makis responded with a clarity that disarmed the critics. He explained that learning from the RB21 would serve as a methodological, not a technical, foundation. The goal wasn't to gain power or downforce, but to better understand the decision-making and validation processes that had failed at the start of the year. It was an educational strategy applied to real-world competition. And most impressively, it worked. Red Bull regained control of its car while improving its ability to interpret real-time data, a weapon that will prove invaluable under the new regulations. The result was twofold. In the short term, Verstappen was back in contention for wins and reduced his deficit to just 36 points. The RB21 began the season as an unpredictable car, but after the latest updates, it transformed into a finely tuned technical weapon. Its main strength is aerodynamic efficiency in low downforce configurations. Another decisive advantage was thermal management. Unlike its rivals, Red Bull understood that the real challenge in 2025 wasn't just aerodynamics, but temperature control. At extreme altitudes like those in Mexico, the RB21 maintained its performance while other teams struggled to cool their engines and brakes. The redesigned engine cover and new air outlets behind the side pods were essential to that balance. The internal flow efficiency allowed it to sustain power without compromising downforce. Makis insisted that this improvement wasn't merely cosmetic or experimental. It was functional, practical, and based on real-world flow analysis. Thanks to this, Red Bull achieved something that seemed impossible, running in high temperatures without degrading performance. The third strength is less visible, but just as important. The RB21 offers a more stable platform than its predecessor. On bumpy or uneven tracks, the car maintains a constant reading of the airflow under the surface, preventing the downforce losses they suffered in 2024. This means Verstappen can attack the curbs and corners with an aggression that other drivers don't dare to match. The mechanical stability allows him to brake later and accelerate earlier, which translates into tenths of a second per lap. It's a subtle but constant difference, and in Formula One, consistency wins championships. That feeling of total control is what restored Verstappen's usual confidence, that coolness that transforms every corner into an opportunity. The final 4 races of the season are a strategic roller coaster. Each circuit demands something different from both the car and the driver. In Brazil, Red Bull sees its clearest opportunity to close the gap in the championship. Interlagos is familiar territory for Verstappen, a track where he has won 3 times and where the rain has always been his ally. Forecasts point to a wet weekend, and in such conditions, the Dutchman becomes an almost unstoppable force. The altitude, the variable weather, and the sprint format all work in his favor. If he manages to dominate that weekend, he could reduce the gap and put McLaren under psychological pressure they haven't faced so far. Then comes Las Vegas, a completely different circuit, a night race with long straights and heavy braking zones. It's a huge technical challenge for any car, but especially for those that rely on pure downforce. There, the efficiency of the RB21 could make all the difference. Verstappen thrives on street circuits, and his ability to control the car at the limit gives him a natural advantage. If Red Bull manages a victory in Las Vegas, the championship could take a dramatic turn and put Verstappen in the lead for the first time all season. Qatar and Abu Dhabi will close the season with completely opposite styles. Lusail is a high downforce circuit with sustained corners, ideal for testing the RB21's technical consistency in extreme setups. Tire management will be key, and that's where McLaren could make up ground. But Red Bull has something the others don't: accumulated experience. The combination of a finely tuned car, clear technical direction, and a driver at his peak has restored the team's identity. Verstappen said it with the serenity of someone who knows what's coming. If we keep delivering perfect weekends, anything is possible. Red Bull's resurgence isn't just a performance story, it's a lesson in character. In a sport where margins are razor-thin, what makes the difference is the ability to evolve under pressure. Marquez, Marco, and Verstappen have restored the team's essence, that blend of technical precision and audacity that always defined its best years. Every upgrade, every risky strategy, every technical decision was part of a larger plan, to demonstrate that a champion doesn't need perfect conditions to prevail, only the determination to keep pushing forward. And that determination is what keeps the hope of a fifth consecutive title alive. Not because of statistics, but because of conviction. In the coming weeks, we'll find out if this comeback becomes history or legend. But one thing is already certain: Verstappen's competitive spirit and Red Bull's technical brilliance have rewritten the 2025 narrative. What remains to be seen is whether perfection can be replicated once again under maximum pressure. Share your thoughts in the comments. Are we witnessing the definitive return of Red Bull's dominance, or do you think McLaren will hold on until the end? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel